Here are a few scripts that I wrote to help automate some Mac procedures. There are different OS commands that you can usually find on forums or knowledge bases, but the specific procedures that I compiled together here save time. This video will also fall in line with some of our future videos on automation using Raspberry Pis and Arduinos and things like that. This script is essentially a text document saved as a shell script. It can be done by opening TextEdit or opening Terminal and using Nano. And you can get to that by just opening Terminal and typing Nano. Then type Control X and save it as the file name .sh. The first one is an erase script. It needs to be added to a USB and ran in macOS Recovery Terminal. Recovery Terminal can be accessed during boot up by holding Command and the R key. Terminal can be found under Utilities once in there. In this example, I have named the USB simply USB. Once written, to run the script, simply type in the terminal window /volumes/USB/ the name of the script .sh. Now we'll go over how it's made and how it works. Three parts needed to process the script itself: a macOS installer, an executable called network setup. Network setup can be found on just about any Mac in a hidden folder in user/sbin. This allows the script to automatically connect to Wi-Fi. The macOS installer app is the same installer that you would download from the Mac store or elsewhere. They're roughly around 12 gigabytes, so it'll take a while for that download. Each app contains an executable called Start OS Install, which we will be leveraging in this script. With this script, I've also added a few commands from the Jamf API. That is our MDM provider that I'm using on this demonstration to remove the device record at the end. Now I will go through the script and tell you how it works. First part here, of course, is the shebang statement. Any shell script will need this to run. This first part here is the network setup part. This will connect to an SSID named Wi-Fi SSID on this Wi-Fi adapter. Normally it's going to be EN0 or EN1 for your Wi-Fi adapter, and then of course you just add your SSID name in here. This one uses Mac authentication, so there was not a password associated with it. The second part here will check if it can get out to the internet, which I'm using Google, and then using the accept code 200 saying that it was able to be reached. If it is not able to be reached, it's going to our guest network, tries to connect to it, and trying again to see if it can reach out to Google. If it cannot reach out to Google, this part here will skip the network test and simply have to type on the keyboard a Y to continue. This will not guarantee that it'll work, but sometimes there are network issues and you may manually need to delete the instance from your MDM and move on this way. This next line here grabs the serial number of the device and puts it as the variable SN. This part here is using disk utility to erase the hard disk internal one and rename it, of course, Macintosh HD, like most Macs are normally named. The next part here is using the API to delete the record and essentially start from scratch. Then this final command here is the start OS install command. And that is the part that I said is found on any Mac installer app. And this part here will install it to the volume Macintosh HD, which it's renamed right there. And then you agree to the license, you force quit the apps, and you allow removal. And this evaluates or runs this command. It'll do its thing, and it will shut down afterwards. Sometimes I've ran into, if the process doesn't completely get this shutdown command, adding this part here to unmount the disk and force it will usually finish that part up. So that's the erase script. The last part about making any script is making it executable. This can be done by simply opening up Terminal, typing in chmod +X, and dragging the script in there, pressing enter. This will allow it to work as an executable script, even though it was, I guess, wrote in TextEdit or in Nano. That also has to be done to any of these scripts here that we will be going through. The next script is an update script. This will essentially be the same process as our last demonstration, but instead of erasing the device, it's only going to update it. And in this example, I'm updating it to 12.5. So once again, it connects to the Wi-Fi, just like the last script. We have the network test here, of course, where you can skip it, but you need the network to essentially update. There's checks with Apple to verify things, so it's best to have a network connected. And again, pulls the serial number here, and it also pulls some of the product or the product version using that, which is this part here. So with this part here, it will find out if it's on version 12.5 or greater or equal to, and if it is 12.5, it will exit. Or if there's a newer version than 12.5, it will also exit. If that's met, it will start the install process. I also added this part in here where it will list the volumes on this computer. There is an issue if the hard drive is not named Macintosh HD. Some people like to rename them some different things, and for this installer to work properly, it needs to find that volume to install it. So when this lists the volumes, Macintosh HD should be there. If it is not there, you will get an error and it will not work. So this will at least tell you why it's not working. And again, that is why it has this part in here at the bottom. But this will evaluate the code here and will install the operating system. And then of course it'll restart and do its thing, and it'll, when it comes back up, it will be on 12.5 or whatever version that you had on your USB drive. The next script is an easy way to update the software. It has to be run from a desktop or the view here, not recovery. I'll go over how this one works. It's very simple. It uses a software update command that's built into macOS. No installer is needed since it will fetch it directly from Apple. So once again, it'll connect to our Wi-Fi or ensure that it's connected. With this part here, it will verify that it can reach out to Google. And if it cannot, a pop-up box will pop up saying that you need to try run it again and checking your Wi-Fi. I have that also one more time down in here in case you're running into an issue where once it gets the update, sometimes Wi-Fi cards will disconnect or whatnot, that it will ensure you connect back to it before it restarts again. And then it will exit and run in the background and update the software. So this one's kind of handy, works well. Finally, I have an app for device enrollment. Making an app is a little different than just writing a script, but it's very similar code-wise. The script doesn't necessarily need to be ran through an app. You can use it like a shell script like our last three examples. But for how I needed to deploy it, I had to write it as an app. We can go over how to make a shell script into an app maybe in a later video. This script will also take a laptop with a disposable enrollment account or using an admin account to run the program. It will get the username and password from the end user that's going to be using the device, add their account to the device, and once it's done, it will leverage your MDM to remove the disposable account if you used one and finish assigning the device in the MDM using its API. And here's how this one works. So since this is an app, I will need to show you how to get into this in a little different way. You have to go to Show Package Contents, and in here, this is our shell script. So this one's a little more complicated than the last. Pulls the device serial number here because you'll need it if you are using your MDM to show your devices via the serial number or if they're named via the serial number. So that's information that we have there to be used. It also checks internet connection and pops up a dialog box if it is not connected, just like our previous script. If everything's good to go, it'll pop up a box telling you to enter your username. Once it's entered, it will use that username and put it as a variable username. Next, it will ask you to enter your password. And that is the password for the user. And then, of course, it puts that as a variable password. Next, we're using AD here to verify that that password and username matches what we have in AD for that user. So that's this part of the code here. Of course, I've made it pretty generic and just have AD address in there. That'll probably be like your domain.local or something similar to that. So there's some of those pieces here. And when it gets the full printout, it will need to be deciphered and pulled as in different areas of the output to make variables to verify everything. So that's what that's doing here. If the information is not found, their username not found, a pop-up box will come up here and say that it's not found. Also, if the Wi-Fi is disconnected or it is not connected to the same pathway as your AD, it will also cause that error here, and you will have to hit OK and run the script again. This will use AD to leverage your username and password credentials to make sure that they match. This part of the script will prompt you to enter your username and password. It will check that against AD to make sure that the account is valid for the user. If your username is not found, it could be a break in the internet connection or your connection to AD, or maybe the username was not even listed and allowed to be able to make an account on your network. If that happens, you will get a dialog box that will close the program. If that check passes and it's okay, a dialog box will pop up showing you the information that you entered for you just to double check it one more time and hit OK. If everything is okay, AD will check the password by cutting the output with your first and last name, removing any white spaces for the second part here, and then combined both variables to get the correct DN for AD to verify it. Now this may be unnecessary for your deployment or how you want to use this type of script, but this is what we had to do for what we needed this for. If AD does not work or the connection fails, you'll also get an error. But if everything is good with AD, it will start the rest of the script right here. So that's basically the check part to verify that the user AD password is correct. So it will put the correct username and password on the device. You will get a please wait. It will just flash for a brief second just to show the user that everything is working. And then the back end part. So the account that you're using has to have the local password in here. I know that's kind of a security risk, but the way we were doing this is this was a disposable account and it's only used just to set this first part up. Then the MDM later on will remove this account and everything will be secure again. So using this function here, it creates the account using the information that we put in before and was verified by AD and creates the account. It also puts the user as 508, which we use for other things later on with our MDM. It also creates all your home directories and creates the password. It will check if the username is a student or if it was a staff member for this particular script. Student names all had numbers at them and the staff did not. So it searched for that via the username and put them in the correct group. If they were staff, they got admin rights, which is adding them to the admin group. If it is student, it does not get added there and creates it as a standard account. It also makes the owner of the folders that it created as the username. These other parts here were different options that we added for checking in with our MDM or adding it to different groups. You can put your API addresses in here to get it to do things during the script. And of course, it still says please wait between each thing that it does. The last part of this, we also have it run a policy and recon check with our MDM. And we, of course, use Jamf for this particular thing. And that will check in and make sure the device record is good to go before this restarts. This will also remove this app that you're running at the end of this. If everything goes well, it'll remove it so there's no passwords or anything for people to check out. We'll also tell the end user that it is going to restart and if they do not hit OK, after 10 seconds, it'll shut down itself. Doing this will make sure that when it restarts, they'll have a login. They can log in as the username and password that we set up earlier in here. And when the MDM uses its reoccurring check-in or whatever trigger you have it set as to remove this enrollment account, it'll remove it and there'd be no trace of this account for anybody to get into. There's other ways to do it, but that is one way that I found worked pretty well and may be scalable for small businesses or school districts, or I guess anybody else that my script would help.